So recently we got a trailer for season 3 of The Chosen and many people are excited. But then there was a controversy surrounding one line from the trailer.
I am the law of Moses.
One popular YouTube channel was saying this was from the Book of Mormon. So 𝙇𝙄𝙆𝙀𝙀, the director and writer of The Chosen, decided to finally respond to these allegations. Hit that thumbs up and let's get into it. All right, guys, we're gonna go right into it. There have been many YouTubers and individuals, and we've seen comments, we've seen areas where they've been in the comment sections basically saying that no, this quote did not come from Book of Mormon, whatever it's called. But from the official Chosen YouTube channel, 𝙇𝙄𝙆𝙀𝙀 decided to touch on it. So we're going to watch a little bit of what he had to say.
So number one, of course, I'm not quoting from the Book of Mormon. I've never read the Book of Mormon. The first time I spent too much time, I shouldn't take too much time, any time on this, was after people started saying I was quoting from the Book of Mormon. So I checked it out. I'm like, actually, it's not the same quote. But even if it was, it doesn't really matter. Because I still stand by the quote. You know who also said the same thing? Charles Spurgeon, one of the great theologians of all time.
Interesting. He said Charles Spurgeon had a very similar saying. Let's see what it is.
Evangelical theologian who said Christ is the law incarnate. And
the law incarnate. Christ is the law incarnate. So,
of course, no one came out in public that was saying
𝙇𝙄𝙆𝙀
just took from Charles Spurgeon. But here's the spoiler alert. I wasn't taking from either of them. It's not that revolutionary of a concept.
So ironically, in a chat that I saw him kind of chiming in, and I believe it was on a Ruslan video, he basically goes on and says that it was actually inspired from Breaking Bad. It was a line in Breaking Bad, which you all can go look that up. I'm not going to post that in here, but it's kind of inspired from a line from in there.
Which I'll explain in just a moment. And another thing is my consultants, we have, Messianic Jewish rabbi and a evangelical scholar, New Testament scholar, and they read my scripts. I have pastors and I have friends and who we take this stuff very, very seriously. And
so he asked Christians. He didn't not one Mormon in the collection of Christians and spiritual leaders that spoke to that. Isn't that interesting? A lot of people are immediately ascribing his attentions to trying to reflect the Mormon church, or he is inspired by Mormon doctrine, which is really interesting because that idea only comes from some of the funding and support that The Chosen has, which I believe is from, I know one in particular, I think his name is 𝙎𝙆𝙆𝙈𝙈𝙀𝙉, I want to say. He's a YouTube guy. They have nothing to do with content creation in it. So it's one of those weird things where these comments, they've addressed it time and time again. There's another video on this channel, I think from several months ago, where he addresses this. So if you really want to hear in long form him really touch on how, debunking all of those thoughts, then go for it. But let's continue.
And anytime Jesus is speaking, we think, we want to make sure that we reflect the character of Jesus in the Gospels.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I didn't watch the show originally, is because I genuinely am always skeptical about anybody that tries to represent who Jesus is, because we'll never fully get it right. But from everyone that's watched it, they've been really touched by it. They don't look at it as a source of, I guess you could say, doctrine or how they build their faith upon, but it's really just from a creative perspective, entertaining, heartfelt, enjoyable, and different take on making these type of movies. So that's why I'm going to check it out. If you caught from my last video, I'm going to watch it going forward.
Problem with it. And so when people are saying, trying to explain to me why it's wrong, trust me, we've already thought through these things. We take these things seriously in advance. So someone just commenting on YouTube isn't just going to make us go, oh my goodness, we never thought of that. So here's I do believe that it's theologically plausible, if depending on what word you want to use, but we do believe that it's theologically accurate. Christ is the Word. Christ is above all. He created all. He's the fulfillment of the law. He's the replacement of the law. Now, that's not to do away with the law. He didn't do away with the law. In fact, he actually says that. But Christ is the ultimate authority.
Yeah,
and
that sounds very accurate scripture to me. I mean, he's the ultimate authority. Will we deny that? Because Jesus Christ is God, but we also understand he's fully God, 100% God, 100% man.
So when he says, I am the law, it's kind of the equivalent. In many ways, it's a figure of speech, of course, because Christ didn't actually say these exact words in Scripture. We don't know if he said something like that.
Now, people may say, oh, you're talking about he's using a figure of speech like Jesus. People act like Jesus didn't speak in parables, and that was like completely not plausible. So there's always this conversation of how much creative leeway do you get in representing someone like Jesus. And again, that was something someone like me was not as open-minded to. Like, I've seen bits and pieces of the different series, and I even saw the Son of God movie where they try to represent Jesus. Haven't seen the Passion of Christ, actually. I need to. I'm gotta get on that. So that's on my list. But anyways, I've seen different representations, and I haven't always loved the representations, and there are things that I can critique. But it's one of those things where it's like, to say that Jesus didn't use hyperbole, that he didn't use literary devices, parables, all of those different things, is just totally, that's totally not someone having a conversation in good faith or in good knowledge of the scriptures.
That or not, but we think that it's certainly possible. But it's like when an ultimate authority goes to someone's house, and let's say they're confronting a citizen, and the citizen says, I'm going to call the police. I want to talk to the police. If that person says, bro, I am the police. Now, they're not actually saying they're the police. They're saying, I am your ultimate authority. What you think is the ultimate authority. What you are trying to appeal to, that's me. I'm replacing what you put in your mind as the ultimate law.
So to me, that's very clear. I don't know how, I mean, let me say it like this. I won't say I don't know how someone can misinterpret that. I get how something literally that isn't directly in scripture and that profound being said, I get how that can be a little bit off-putting. It sounds, obviously some creative liberty being taken in regarding what the scriptures say and what Jesus says in those different instances that you find him in. So I get how some people may hear those things and may even like say, okay, is that in the scripture? So I don't have any problem. We should be like the Bereans in scripture, and we should study the word for ourselves. But that's theologically, I can't say that the statement is just off base, or you couldn't make that statement even figuratively like he intended it. I think it's very plausible in my opinion, but I understand why some people may not get it. Now, I mentioned in the intro how a lot of this came up because a very high profile YouTube channel called this line out and said how it was, I think, pointed people's minds to the idea that it could be from the Book of Mormon. And we're going to look at that in just a second. But before we do me a quick favor, guys. Make sure you like this video, push it out so we can clear up any confusion or false information or distortions of things. So we're going to look at real quick the YouTube channel that actually made the statement. So this was the post right here. Now, if you notice at the very top, please see the chosen update. They just posted this today upon the apology coming out. But if you look here, let me see if I can, and it's a lot. So I'm going to try to sift through this as best as I can. So it says, sorry for the slow response. We've been on campus filming a ton. I'm going to skip straight down. So two popular YouTubers, John McCrae and Ruslan. Ruslan's the homie. And John McCrae, I don't know him, but I love his content. And he had a really good video on this. But they said, made reaction videos on YouTube, our YouTube community post that accused the Chosen of having their Jesus character quote the Bible, the Book of Mormon, sorry. They perceived I had jumped the gun with an unsubstantiated accusation. But here's the rest of the story. I didn't write the post. In fact, I didn't even know about it until I saw their videos 3 days later. A very earnest staff member published that post without permission or approval. So apparently, the person that made the statement before that we just went to, where that caused a lot of the controversy online, this person wasn't even the guy you think of, which I forget his name, so forgive me, but the main guy that you see that curates the videos for this channel. He says, while it turns out that there was actually much ado about nothing, there is much good news in the story. First, Wretched didn't jump the gun. Second, I spoke to both guys and the conversation was most amicable. Nobody harbors any animosity towards anyone. Christian dialogue doesn't have to be nasty. Some might say that means John and Ruslan made a mistake. I don't think they did. Of course not, because they were just responding to another public statement. So I'm fine with that personally. They were not obligated to contact me. Yeah, because it's a public statement. So not every YouTube matter. I like that. YouTube is not always a Matthew 18 issue. They were not obligated to contact, and there's no way they could have known I didn't write that post. So no harm, no foul. I agree. If you are interested why I don't endorse that post, here are several reasons. In the correct context, like I wrote in my book, Jesus Unmasked, it isn't necessarily wrong to say that God is the law. His laws emanate in him because they so perfectly reflect his character and nature. So I'm going to go down the next reason. Number 2, the Chosen quote was not a perfect direct quote from this verse, which I guess would be from the Book of Mormon. 3, I'm not Gnostic. I can't read the minds of others to know if they are quoting the Book of Mormon. To share a suspicion or a hunch is dangerously close to talebearing. I never want to cross that line. I think that's good. I think this is well written, and I'm happy that they put out this public statement. So all that to say, while I still maintain my concerns, this isn't one of them. This was an unfortunate incident that generated smoke where there ultimately was no fire. So very beautiful statement. All this stuff, all this stuff got stirred up, but in reality, the true views of the owner of the channel, that post didn't reflect it. So it's one of those cautionary situations where sometimes you have people that work on your team that may jump the gun or may post something that not everybody agrees with. And that happens a lot in the Christian community. So I just want to say, so in the question in the title of this video, was this fair criticism, or was this wrong? I would say that this is the way that they articulated Jesus does not deviate away from Scripture, and most Christians that truly understand Scripture wouldn't go to that link. Now, they may disagree. I don't have a problem with you saying, I don't like them having Jesus saying that big of a statement if Scripture doesn't make that big of a claim, because we know Jesus made a lot of big claims in Scripture. He said, before Abraham was, I am. He refers to himself as the bread of life. So many different things. He even says that that he fulfills the law, and he talks about the fulfillment of the law. But he doesn't actually say that I am the law of Moses. But if you really understand Scripture, you'll realize that he is a reflection, a perfect reflection of that law, and that he was a perfect man, and that he is God in the flesh. So I think it was really clear. I'm glad they put out that statement, and I'm glad this is all cleared up. But if you enjoyed this, and if this helped you to bring some clarity and made you feel a little bit better about watching The Chosen, then hit the thumbs up on this video. Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this situation if this helped to clear up the matter. But subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and hit that notification bell.
Glocks loaded at the opponent's armor reach. Stop sowing to get a bonus, that's a reach. I was born to meet the moment, so what? Feast, no life, feast, you know what? Feast, Glocks